I'm sure most of you have heard of stem cell research, but do you know what it is? Research on stem cells is being done so that there might someday be cures for all types of diseases and sicknesses, such as Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer, or to even grow new organs for your body, like a kidney or liver. There are two types of stem cells I will talk about today. Embryonic stem cells are cells that can change into any type of cell for the body, like a liver or heart. They come from the massive cells that we call embryos. The reason that this type of research is so controversial is because the embryo is destroyed in the process of getting the cells. The other type of cells that can do research on is adult stem cells. These adult stem cells come directly from an adult or child and are only able to become several different types of cells. They are not controversial because there is no harm done to the adult giving the stem cells, unlike with embryonic stem cells. The whole controversy is about whether using embryonic stem cells in research is moral. Dictionary.com defines the word moral as concerned with the principles of right conduct or the distinction of right and wrong. The debate is primarily centered on whether the federal government should be funding embryonic stem cell research. There are a number of viable arguments for both sides which can explain the scope of the stem cell research controversy. One of the most prominent arguments against embryonic stem cell research is that it uses embryos, which some consider to be the beginning of life. It is most common for scientists to use leftover embryos from past in vitro fertilizations to create new stem cell lines. Secondly, supporters of embryonic stem cell research say that embryonic stem cells have the most potential to save lives by finding many cures for diseases. They say that because embryonic stem cells are capable of turning into any other type of cell, they are the best option because they can differentiate into the largest variety of specialized cells. Third, people who support embryonic stem cell research say that with the right funding, the research will produce results in the next 5 to 10 years. They say that if they had government funding and more support, the research would be more advanced. Fourth is the issue that embryonic stem cells could easily be rejected if injected into someone because the cells are not from the patient. The medicine that is then required to prevent rejection can create tumors and is very dangerous to the patient's health. Lastly, some people are not sure where they stand when it comes to the issue of in vitro fertilization. The issue is difficult for many people because the scientists are using spare embryos that parents who had an in vitro fertilization no longer needed. Many people are okay with the usage of the extra embryos, instead of wasting it by throwing it away. On the other side is the opponents of embryonic stem cell research, who do not agree with the destruction of embryos and look to other types of stem cell research to find cures for diseases. They are generally pro-life, which is why they have a problem with the killing of an unborn child when they destroy an embryo. Many of those people are more in favor of adult stem cell research because it does not involve killing, but instead uses the stem cells of adults or children. Since these adult stem cells have some of the same properties as embryonic stem cells, many people believe that scientists should be testing on adult stem cells instead of embryonic stem cells. Adult stem cell research is more expensive, but some researchers say adult stem cells may become the popular stem cell to test on in the near future. Secondly, opponents of embryonic stem cell research respond by saying that adult stem cells have just as much potential. With the creation of modified adult stem cells, a whole new world of possibilities was opened because the scientists now have a comparable, more ethical option to embryonic stem cells. Those cells have the same property of being able to differentiate into all types of cells as embryonic stem cells have. Third, opponents of embryonic stem cell research have found scientists that say the results, or cures, will actually be at least a decade or two in the future. Those opponents say that the federal government should have no role in funding embryonic stem cell research because of the moral controversy surrounding the research, and because the Dickey-Wicker Amendment prohibits the federal government involvement. According to the Genetics and Public Policy Center, the Dickey-Wicker Amendment states, "It is illegal to use federal funds to support research in which human embryos are created, destroyed, discarded, or knowingly subjected to risk of injury or death greater than allowed for research on fetuses in utero." Fourth, adult stem cells do not have the risk of rejection. The cell is taken directly from the patient, meaning the DNA would be an exact match. Lastly, opponents of embryonic stem cell research say that even though the extra embryos from in vitro fertilization are not being used, it does not mean that it is acceptable to destroy them. They believe that the extra embryos should be saved and allowed to be adopted by parents who otherwise could not have children. Parents who go through in vitro fertilization have choices of what to do with their extra embryos, but sometimes they choose to donate them to science for research, which means that they are destroyed. I read on Wikipedia about the first human organ transplant grown from adult stem cells that was done in 2008. A woman who had tuberculosis had her trachea collapse. They took stem cells from her bone marrow and a part of a donor's trachea and grew her a new trachea within 4 days. Her body didn't reject it because the stem cells used to grow it were from her own body. They now think that there are certain adult stem cells that could be used to cure cancers. Just think of the possibilities that are out there if more funding and research was put into adult stem cell research instead of embryonic stem cell research. Not only could there be great findings, it would stop the moral controversy. The reasons for supporting adult stem cell research are many. The possible cures that may be found, the lives that can be made better, and the lives that can be saved are just a few. Since there are a number of different ways to conduct some stem cell research, I have to conclude that adult stem cell research is the right choice in this moral controversy. The scientists conducting the research are only trying to further their understanding of cells and how to help the many people that could benefit from this research. I'm sure everyone knows someone that could benefit from a cure found through adult stem cell research.